I think we will begin. Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to welcome.
Meg, you're muted.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Well, that's good because more people are rolling in. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our Sunday morning coffee house today, February the 21st. It is an absolutely gorgeous morning here in South Hadley, Massachusetts. It's definitely winter, but skies are blue and the snow is white and the trees are green. So it's really very beautiful. So on behalf of the Center for Functional Nutrition, we'll open the coffee house to all of you. And Brian, I will hand the coffee house over to you.
Well, thank you, Megan, and welcome everybody to the Sunday morning coffee house. And we're so grateful that you've joined us so that we can connect and create and collaborate together and bring what we learn together here out into our circles, our friends and family and communities. And I'm really excited for our featured presenter today. I have had the pleasure of getting to know Cornelia Elsaesser over the past couple of years. We've really become friends, and she's an incredible steward of health and wellness work. She has a number of different modalities that she does. She actually founded Holistic Gateway in Minneapolis in May 2012. But she's really been doing this work of care, I believe, since like 1985, when she was a nurse back in her home country of Germany. So she has since just gotten involved with a number of different modalities. She's very, very well versed, and she just is a delight to participate with and to learn from. And I know that she's going to be bringing some new things today, things that I don't even know about, or that I haven't, talked with her about before. So I'm excited for you to share with all of us today, Cornelia. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. Today we'll talk a little bit about ancestors and our ancestral lines and what they have to do with our well-being and with how we take our lives and how love flows in our systems of families. I was first introduced to Family Constellation by Bert Hellinger very early on. I read about it maybe in the 90s already. When I had my own children, I thought, I heard about Hellinger work, and I took some books and got some books and read up on it. But it wasn't until I lived in Pennsylvania, or Delaware, Pennsylvania area, I found a practitioner. She was also German. And the funny thing is, we lived and grew up about 45 minutes from each other in Germany. And we lived about 45 minutes from each other in America, on the East Coast there in the tri-state area. It was just really, really funny. And Lorelei, actually, hi Lorelei. Lorelei was part of our circles there, of our family constellation circles. But I'll start out with a poem by Prayers of Honoring by Pixie Lighthorse. She's an incredible poet, and she has a poet or a prayer of honoring our lineage. Thank you to the ancestors for bringing us through your sacred line. Thank you for lifting us up above our family suffering by helping from the other side. We feel your presence all around us. Send in the bird song to lift us to our higher frequency, so that their lively, cheerful trills and tweets stir us awake from our slumbers and put us in direct contact with you. Let us feel your good vibrations spreading through us like a herd of wild horses. Let us carry forth a good legacy to mother the children, honor the elderly, and celebrate the lives of those who are leaving this dimension bound for the next adventure. Help us not to fear the death of ourselves and loved ones. Be our insurance. Keep in touch. Come to us in dreams and empower who we are, how we walk, what we speak, and what we do with the spirited knowingness from the other side of the mountain. Teach us all the ways to connect with you, helping our arms reach back for your reassurance. Walk with us towards joy because we need you when we struggle. Help us in all the ways you couldn't when you were here. Help us lay down our burdens and to trust what we don't have to fight so hard anymore because of the battles you have fought for us long ago. Help us make sense of the stories, plentiful and sometimes tragic. Show us how to connect the dots. Be the rocks we can't climb up for a better view. Oh, be the rocks we can climb up for a better view and crawl into for shelter. Show us the right medicine for our families and exactly how to administer it. Give us more reasons to grow our faith because we humans are very forgetful creatures. You remember what it was like. Help us tune into your station and we're blasted. I love this poem. It really brings us into a place of, oh, it's not us that brings us here, it's our ancestors and all the ancestors that have come before us that really still stand behind us and support us with all they have done in this life. But we are sometimes so stupid to not take that life. We sometimes think, oh, we are smarter than them. We sometimes think, oh, we are bigger than them. We sometimes think, oh, we have figured it out. And it's like, no, we haven't. They have done that for us. And in many ways, it's so beautiful to tap into their wisdom, but also what we often struggle with is accepting our fate. And Bert Hellinger talks about something called the family soul. And the family soul is been with you. Oh, my dog is just whining. I'm sorry. Oh, good. Is everybody that has been born before us into our family system, but also the people that have affected our family in terms of traumatic events. So for example, in Germany, we have a lot of history, of course, in World War I, World War II, and we are entangled sometimes, our families are deeply entangled in the wounding of what has happened. So these parts of what has happened are also part of our family system, and we need to integrate them and make peace with them and stand there to say, oh, this is part of our history and this is part of our family system, and not push that away, but rather say, this is my part of being in the system. If we push this away or say, oh, this is not part of ourselves, we turn backwards in a way and say, oh, there's an empty spot there. We haven't acknowledged and haven't honored that piece in our system, in our family system. And then we step into something that is not ours to do. This is kind of how how I have come to know that. And Bert Hellinger to talk a little bit about him. He was a priest, he was a missionary and worked a long time with the Zulus in Africa. And he saw in the ancestral field, whatever has happened in the ancestral line, often repeated and often repeated and turned into the same kind of suffering in people that were born after that, you know. So he figured that out and learned more about family therapy. He learned about all kinds of different family entanglements and created what he called family constellation. And family constellation is a practice that works with the information of your family field. So if you want, so it's two levels. The family field is up here, and that's all the information. And the behavioral part and who we are is who we are in our experience. But if this field of information is not acknowledged and not honored and not integrated, then we tap into things and struggles that have been happening before. The constellation, how they are practiced is, for example, you have people that represent your mother, you have people that represent your grandparents, for example, or you have people that stand in for you. So you say, oh, you bring forth a problem you have, you know, so maybe, oh, I have a problem with my profession. I can't really find what I need to step into. And then we, in family constellation, you see that as a thing about how do we take the blessing of our fathers, for example, you know. So you say, oh, I want to put in my father, myself, and the obstacle of what is holding me back and my intention, for example. So other people assume these places and tap into what is called the field of information. I don't know if you're familiar with Rupert Sheldrake's work and his morphogenetical field theories, but he has a field theory or a theory that everybody has a field of knowing. And knowing field of the family is what we're tapping in with these constellations. So when somebody stands in for yourself, when somebody stands in for your father, when somebody stands in even for deceased grandparents, great-grandparents, or great-great-grandparents, they get visceral feelings and they get a knowing of who those people were and what they have experienced. So with that, you can balance out and bring relationships that have been not good, or people that haven't been honored. You can bring them back into the system and acknowledge them and honor them in their place so that we have harmonic relationships that can work again. I'll give you an example out of my own family. So my mother was born into a family with like 7 children in the north of northern part of Germany, relatively poor. And the firstborn of my mom's siblings died when he was about 5 years old with water burns. And my grandmother had to carry him because it was countryside and it was in the beginning of World War II, or a little bit before World War II. There was no resources, of course, there. She had to carry him and walk through the snow with a dying child, you know. And he burned with water burns. And when my mother was about 14, she worked in a kitchen, in an orphanage, in a kitchen. And there was a pot of hot boiling potato water that fell over, and she fell into it and also had water burns and almost died. The doctors after 3 days said, oh, she's still not dead. I guess we have to do something now. And that was her experience, you know. When we did my first constellation, my family constellation, my mother was holding hands with her brother. Sorry, my dog's a little loud. Stop it. So my mother was holding hands with that brother, and they were in love with each other. So you really saw very clearly this deep entanglement that was there, and that that we had to acknowledge, you know. So we had to say, oh, this person, this child has not been spoken of, this child has not been, the death of this child has not been voiced very much in this family and has not been acknowledged, you know. So we have to do that in order to prevent other people in this family down the line to step into the same fate. There's a little quote here that, a little paragraph, a person who talked about health, happiness, and family constellation. Is a pretty easy read by Michael Reddy. And he talks about what Peter calls blind love and human suffering. Stop it. Stop it. Sorry. In family constellation, surprising improvements in people's health and happiness have become an everyday thing, he says. Not always, but too often to ignore what may be what may at first seem like a kind of guided but unscripted play acting uncovers hidden loyalties and that have anchored suffering in place. These loyalties express a forgotten but still active love for a family or for an ancestor, and practitioners refer to that as blind love. When it can be shifted, when it can open its eyes, so to speak, the results are they're incredibly life-altering almost. And it can be emotional and physical suffering that can recede on its own or yield dramatic bettering of the situation and remedies the previous suffering. I have a friend also, it's another example, and she took care of a child and got into a relationship where the mother had died of breast cancer when the child was 4 years old, and she herself had lost her mother when she was 4 years old to the same disease. So there's definitely an ancestral path we can follow in this way. So I would like to do a little practice of really feeling what it is to feel our ancestral tree behind us. And you do not have to know your ancestors necessarily. If you're an adopted person, then put your adoptive parents just right beside your biological parents and take the ancestral line from your biological parents, even if you don't know them. So, okay, we'll start. Just ground yourself, be comfortably seated, close your eyes, feel your feet on the ground, feel the connection to the earth. And then in your mind, place your parents behind you. your father and your mother. And they can hold your shoulders if you're comfortable with that, or they can just stand behind you. Then behind them, place your grandmothers and your grandfathers of your father and mother. Think about them and place them right behind your parents. Then place your great-grandparents of your grandparents behind them. And feel what it is like to have them all standing behind you. And feeling them. Then place your great-great-grandparents behind your great-grandparents. And put them all in that place. Then place your great-great-great-grandparents behind you. And behind your great-great-grandparents. It's like a fan of your ancestors standing behind you. Their love flows forward and towards you. Feel what it is like to have that back. When you're ready, you can turn around and look at them. And take a deep, deep bow. Take a deep, deep bow in gratitude. Gratitude for them having given life to you. Then look at your parents. They have a small gift for you. The gift in their hands. You can hand over to you. Take it. Take it. And see what it is. Bow again deeply. See all the smiles they have for you. And turn around. This feeling you can adopt whenever you feel lonely, whenever you feel you need somebody having your back. And hold that gift you got from your parents. Hold that in deep gratitude. Take a deep breath and a sigh out. And with that, I'll be happy to open up to questions and comments if anybody has.
Well, thank you so much, Cornelia. That was certainly a very unique and empowering experience, and something that I'm certainly going to pay attention to in my own practice. I just felt very, there was a new level of connection in my, in who I am here and now, and just like feeling that incredible line of support, really like a fan base, like a group of people that were just like, hey, go for it, Brian, live a great life. We got your back. I loved it. Anyone have any questions or comments for Cornelia? Yeah, Megan, go for it.
Yeah, so I am very fortunate that we have a farmhouse that my family built in 1860. So for my entire life, I've lived in that farmhouse. This is in Canada. And I do have pictures on my father's side of my grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and going back a number of years. And then I also do for my mother's side. And it's funny, I've often felt them when I'm there. I mean, there have been definite moments when I have felt them. But this, Brian, that was a good word, this fan. And in this situation, Russell's family was also there too. So I have not felt that, that maybe the word wholesomeness comes to my mind. And my father, at the very end of that meditation, gave me a gift. And that was very significant. So thank you for these insights, Cornelia.
Oh,
it's just so important to know that we are honoring our ancestors. I mean, and to have that part of our everyday life is very potent. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we have constellation therapists at Holistic Gateway, and they in the moment do online constellations. And there's on the 25th, there's a free introduction to constellation work that you can tune into in the evening. So it's all listed on Holistic Gateway's meetup, if you are familiar with that. And I can forward it to Brian also, the link to Brian, and he can put it in the newsletter.
Yes, we will do that. Thank you, Megan, for the comments. And Cornelia, there was a lot of requests for that poem. So if you could please send me an email with, the name of the author and the book,
yeah,
that would be
great.
great.
In the chat. How's that?
Yeah, that works too. Yep.
I put it in the chat. Okay.
Do you have time for another comment
yes.
or not?
Yes, please, Carla, go for it.
You do. Oh, Cornelia, thank you so much. It's funny, but just over the last, I don't know, month, or I don't even know if it was a month or 6 months or 2 weeks, but my family, who are all gone now, have just been forefront in my mind, other than my dog, of course.
Oh, you guys. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
And what you said was just right in the middle of what I've been releasing. I've been releasing. And I mean, how long can I go going on, chewing on all this stuff that happened, which I have no control over, and I want it integrated and I want it released. And so that's what I've been doing. And it pops up in the morning sometimes when I'm just get up and I say, oh, there they are again. And I can't do anything to help them and blah, blah, blah. And of course, my work is to release everything but the present moment. And so just thank you. It's such a synchronicity, and unconscious one. But thanks.
Yeah, I can
Great to hear
I
you.
can only encourage you. Bow to them, bow to them, and bow to them, and give them back what they are here to carry, and what they were here to carry, and what they were here to experience. You know,
Mhm.
fate is just incredible, an incredible blessing, and we have to accept whatever is. You know, that's the words of Bert Hellinger.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
Carla. I see Teresa. Yes,
Yeah.
please go for it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Brian. For those of you that don't know me, I'm TJ, and I have a quick question because during that, it was interesting at the very end. I've always known about the ancestral thing, but it caused me also to project to the future. I had a fan base that actually came from the front of me as well, to those that would be my progeny. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I wonder, then does it go both ways? Can you send blessings down the line for the people that you are, you know, bringing into the world through your family?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They should stand in front of you, and they should face the future as well, you know, and you are there to give that love you've gotten from your ancestors forward. And it's about 7 to 9 generations back that can still have an impact on us, you know, which means the kids will be included. So I have done all this work. I've done a lot of constellation weekends and constellation work, really to help clear the field for my children, and to see, okay, how can I do my part in honoring that system, so that they don't have to turn around and look back and live another person's life, you know.
Thank you.
So what you can do with especially with these trauma and traumatic experience in the family system, bring them in to work with, you know, to acknowledge them. I do a lot of clay work, so I made my little family in clay clay, so that everybody is acknowledged there. I have that my uncle that died, and how he died there, and so that I have a visual and can really work with them and honor them every day.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, TJ. I thought that was you, but
It's
I
me.
now totally see you. Great to see you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Patricia, yes, Neiman, go for it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Cornelia, for your presentation.
Thank you.
I have a question because during the meditation, first of all, I've done constellation sessions before, and even for myself, some therapy. And during your meditation, I was a little bit confused, kind of, I couldn't not integrate, but see behind my great grandparents, because you went a few generations before that. So my question is, how could I integrate this part? It's just a question of feeling or of visualizing, because I could feel, but I cannot visualize because I'm lost. I don't know even who they are.
Yeah, that's a good question. We often do not know who they are, especially not like 9 generations back, for example, you know. And just knowing that there's a presence and a knowingness of their presence is often enough. And bowing to that is often enough to acknowledge that and honor them in their place. But if you want to write it out, you know, you can write it out and make a little list of it, and that might help you visualize them, and might help you really see that fan all the way back.
Thank
And
you.
not necessarily with names, just who they are to your parents or to your grandparents, to your great-grandparents. So in my constellation, for example, it was a huge piece when I think it was my great-grandmother, my mother's family is coming from France, from the Huguenots, you know, and they had significant trauma, of course, too, with that journey. And when my great-grandmother finally came into that constellation, and when she was there, everybody could breathe, and everybody had a breath of, oh, this is wonderful. This feels like it needed to happen, you know. So it's a really interesting work. And this year I committed myself, I'm going to take the training actually, so that I will be able to facilitate trainings too, or weekends too.
Thank you, Patricia, for the question. And a great answer, Cornelia. Good practical advice to take advantage of this. Anybody else looking, going once, going twice? Oh, sorry. Yes, I see you, Kat.
Yeah, I have a question about how do you integrate if you have ancestors that have deep, dark secrets? How do you integrate that?
Yeah, that's a really good one. I have a few years back, I signed up for a weekend constellation about family secrets, and I was drawn to that, and I didn't even know there was a family secret in my family. I was like, oh, I have to sign up for that. I was just guided to do that, and there was something that came up, and I thought, wow, is that really true? And then I talked to my mother, and she said, oh yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. And I said, what? So what you do with that is those dark places are the ones that we want to push them away, right? We want to push them out of the system. We do not want that to have happened, or we do not think that is worth of our family. And that's exactly where we create the holes in the system. So in family constellation, what happens very often is that the perpetrator stays very close to the victim, and they have a certain agreement. And it's nothing where I say it's okay to do harm. Not at all. Not at all. It's just in that systemic place, and in the place of the system, they have a certain agreement. And oftentimes, if we do not acknowledge that, and if we do not acknowledge the people that are the perpetrators, the victims turn again into the perpetrators and say, oh, this has happened to me and it is so bad, and they go forward and then they turn into perpetrators. And to end this kind of vicious cycle, we have to bow to our ancestors, even to those that have taken the fate of being the perpetrator, and really have to acknowledge them as they are. And the victims, those we have to acknowledge too. So both sides. And it's tough to think about that in terms of behavior. You know, we definitely want to judge, but in terms of the systemic place, we need to honor them in their place. They have done what they needed to do in order to fulfill their fate. Is that a little bit clearer, Kat? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a great question. Anybody else before we wrap up? All right, well, thank you everyone for your brilliance in your participation, and for your questions, and Cornelia for leading us into a practice that I know will be of great benefit for everyone. And I would just invite everyone here to take the connection and the creation and the collaboration that was done together, and give it to somebody. Have a conversation, be interested in someone's life today, this week, and share what you learned today with that person. So thank you everybody for joining us. We look forward to seeing you all next week, and have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Cornelia. That was wonderful.
Thank
Very
you,
important.
Cornelia.
Very important. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah, good job.
Thank you, Russell and Brian, too.
Morning, Kat.
Hey, Pat.